A young girl died after falling from a haunted cliff. For years later, the boy she loved returned to town. That same night, he saw her standing on the cliff, waiting for him. The next morning, he disappeared without a trace, and neither of them were ever seen again. This is that story. Some people say that love never dies, but in the small mountain town of Ravenwood, there was a girl who proved that statement in the most terrifying way possible. Her name was Evelyn Carter, and even 4 years after her death, she was still waiting for the boy she loved. Ravenwood was a peaceful town hidden deep within the mountains. Dense forests surrounded the area, and most of the residents lived quiet lives. But there was one place everyone feared, a massive cliff known as Shadow Ridge. For decades, strange stories surrounded the cliff. People claimed that anyone who died there never truly left. Some reported hearing whispers at night, while others swore they had seen shadowy figures standing near the edge before vanishing into the darkness. Because of these stories, most residents avoided Shadow Ridge completely. Everyone except Evelyn Carter. Evelyn was one of the most loved girls in town. She was cheerful, adventurous, and curious about everything. Whenever she had free time, she explored the hills and forests around Ravenwood. Unlike everyone else, she never feared Shadow Ridge. To her, the ghost stories were nothing more than local legends. Everything changed the summer Damien Reed arrived in town. Damien was the nephew of one of Ravenwood's respected families. He was only supposed to stay for a short visit before returning home. At first, Evelyn barely noticed him. But one morning, while waiting for a bus to Ashwood College, she found herself stuck without transportation. The bus was unusually late, and she was worried about missing an important lecture. That was when Damien stopped beside her on his motorcycle. After some hesitation, Evelyn accepted a ride into town. The journey lasted less than 30 minutes. Yet those few minutes changed both of their lives forever. What started as simple conversations slowly became friendship, and friendship slowly became something much deeper. Over the following months, Evelyn and Damien spent more and more time together. Neither of them realized that their story was heading toward a nightmare, from which there would be no escape. As the months passed, Evelyn and Damien grew closer than ever. Most evenings, they secretly met near Shadow Ridge. Sometimes they sat on the grassy hills, overlooking the valley. Other times they wandered through the forest trails surrounding the cliffs. Those moments quickly became the happiest part of their lives. They talked for hours about their dreams, their future, and the places they hoped to visit someday. For the first time in her life, Evelyn felt like she had found someone who truly understood her, and Damien felt exactly the same. The more time they spent together, the deeper their feelings became. But secrets never stay hidden forever. One evening, a resident of Ravenwood spotted the two together near Shadow Ridge. By the next morning, rumors had spread throughout the entire town. People whispered about them everywhere. When Evelyn's father heard the rumors, he was furious. He immediately forbade her from seeing Damien again. At the same time, Damien's family learned about the relationship and demanded that he stay away from Evelyn. Within a matter of days, everything changed. The girl who once spent every evening smiling suddenly became silent. The boy who once looked forward to every morning suddenly felt empty. Evelyn was no longer allowed to leave the house without supervision. Her father watched her constantly. Every attempt to contact Damien failed. Days turned into weeks. Weeks slowly turned into months. With each passing day, Evelyn felt herself sinking deeper into loneliness. She stopped enjoying the things she once loved. She stopped spending time with friends. Even the mountains she had always adored no longer brought her happiness. The only thing she could think about was Damien. Meanwhile, Damien eventually left Ravenwood and returned home. Although he missed Evelyn, he convinced himself that moving on was the best thing for both of them. He focused on school, then college, then building a future. But unknown to him, Evelyn was slowly breaking apart. She spent countless nights staring toward Shadow Ridge from her bedroom window, remembering the days she and Damien had spent together, remembering promises that now felt impossible. As time passed, her sadness became an obsession, and eventually, that obsession led her toward the most terrifying night of her life. One cold evening, after months of loneliness, Evelyn quietly slipped out of her house while everyone was asleep. The streets of Ravenwood were completely empty. Only the sound of the wind echoed through the darkness. Without thinking, she walked toward the one place that held all of her happiest memories, Shadow Ridge. She had no idea that before sunrise, her life would be over. That night, Shadow Ridge looked different. The cliffs seemed darker than usual. The cold wind moved through the trees like distant whispers. As Evelyn climbed higher, she suddenly noticed something strange. A familiar scent drifted through the air. It smelled exactly like Damien's cologne. Her heart immediately began racing. She looked around, hoping to see him, but there was no one there. Then she heard something. A voice. Soft, distant, almost impossible to hear. Yet she recognized it instantly. It sounded exactly like Damien. Evelyn froze. For a moment, she thought she was imagining things. Then the voice came again, calling her name. She slowly followed the sound deeper into the darkness. Every time she moved closer, the voice seemed to move farther away. Still, she continued walking, completely unaware that she was approaching the edge of Shadow Ridge. The wind became stronger. The voice became louder. And then she saw someone standing ahead of her. A figure, tall, motionless, waiting. For a brief moment, Evelyn believed it was Damien. She took another step, then another, and another, until suddenly, the ground beneath her feet disappeared. Her scream echoed through the mountains. Then everything went silent. The darkness swallowed her completely. The next morning, Evelyn never returned home. Her father searched everywhere. Friends searched. Neighbors searched. Entire groups walked through the forests and hills surrounding Shadow Ridge. But nobody found her. Days passed, then weeks. Eventually, the town accepted a painful truth. Evelyn Carter had vanished. Officially, nobody knew what had happened to her. But deep inside, her father already knew. Near the edge of Shadow Ridge, he found a torn piece of Evelyn's scarf caught between the rocks. That was enough. From that day forward, nobody spoke about her again. Years slowly passed. For years later, Damien Reed had built a successful life for himself. He had finished college, started a career, and rarely thought about Ravenwood anymore. At least that was what he told himself. The truth was different. Sometimes, late at night, memories of Evelyn still returned. Memories he could never completely forget. Then one autumn afternoon, Damien received unexpected news. A wedding was taking place in Ravenwood. His entire family had been invited. For the first time in 4 years, Damien would return to the town he had tried so hard to leave behind. As the mountains of Ravenwood appeared in the distance, a strange feeling settled inside him. A feeling he couldn't explain. The closer he got to town, the stronger it became. And deep within Shadow Ridge, something was waiting for him to come back. By the time Damien arrived in Ravenwood, the wedding preparations had already begun. Music filled the streets. People laughed, celebrated, and enjoyed the festivities. Yet despite the cheerful atmosphere, Damien couldn't shake the strange feeling growing inside him. Something felt wrong. Something felt unfinished. That evening, he decided to walk through town alone. Every street brought back memories. Every corner reminded him of Evelyn. He found himself wondering what had happened to her after all these years. Had she moved away? Was she married? Was she happy? The questions refused to leave his mind. Eventually, he returned home and went to bed. But sleep didn't last long. Sometime after midnight, Damien suddenly woke up. At first, he thought he had heard something in a dream. Then he heard it again. A voice. Soft, distant, whispering his name. Damien. His eyes opened immediately. The room was completely dark. Everyone else in the house was asleep. For several seconds, he sat motionless. Then the voice came again. Damien. This time it sounded closer. Damien slowly stood up and walked toward the window. What he saw made his blood run cold. Far away near Shadow Ridge stood a woman dressed in white, motionless, watching him. Even from that distance, he recognized her. It was Evelyn. The same face, the same hair, the same figure, exactly as he remembered her 4 years ago. Damien couldn't believe what he was seeing. His heart began pounding. The woman slowly raised one hand, then pointed toward Shadow Ridge, as if asking him to follow her. Before Damien could react, she turned and disappeared into the darkness. For several minutes, he stood frozen. His mind refused to accept what he had seen. It couldn't be Evelyn. That was impossible. Yet something deep inside him urged him to go, to find answers, to discover the truth. Without waking anyone, Damien grabbed a flashlight and quietly left the house. The streets of Ravenwood were completely empty. The cold wind moved through the town like a warning. As he approached Shadow Ridge, the air seemed to grow colder with every step. The deeper he went, the quieter everything became. No birds, no insects, no sound at all. It was as if the entire mountain was holding its breath. Then he saw her, standing near the edge of the cliff, motionless, waiting, and this time, she was much closer. For a moment, Damien felt relieved. The woman standing before him looked exactly like Evelyn. The same face, the same smile, the same eyes he remembered from years ago. "Evelyn," he whispered. The woman slowly looked at him. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then, in a soft voice, she finally broke the silence. "I waited for you." A cold chill ran through Damien's body. Something about her voice felt wrong. It sounded distant, almost unnatural. He took a cautious step forward. Questions flooded his mind. Where had she been? Why had she disappeared? How was she standing here after 4 years? But Evelyn ignored every question. Instead, she slowly moved closer. "I waited for you for 4 years, Damien." The temperature around them seemed to drop instantly. Damien felt his heartbeat quicken. Something was terribly wrong. Then Evelyn smiled. At first, the smile looked normal, but within seconds, it became wider and wider until it no longer looked human. Fear gripped Damien's entire body. The woman standing before him was no longer the Evelyn he remembered. Her skin appeared pale and lifeless. Her eyes seemed completely empty. And then Damien finally understood the horrifying truth. Evelyn Carter had died 4 years ago. She had never left Shadow Ridge. The figure suddenly appeared directly in front of him. "I waited every night," she whispered. "I waited through every storm. I waited through every winter. And you never came back." Damien stumbled backward in terror. He turned and tried to run. But after only a few steps, something grabbed his wrist. The grip felt freezing cold. He looked back. Evelyn's appearance had changed completely. Her eyes were black. Her face twisted into something unnatural. And her voice no longer sounded human. "You left me alone." The wind exploded across the mountains. Trees shook violently. The darkness surrounding Shadow Ridge seemed alive. Damien desperately tried to pull away, but Evelyn's grip only tightened. Then she slowly pointed toward the endless darkness below. "This isn't a cliff anymore," she said. "It's my home." A second later, Damien lost his footing. His scream echoed through the mountains. And then, silence. The next morning, search teams found only 2 things near the edge of Shadow Ridge: a flashlight and Damien's phone. His body was never found. To this day, the people of Ravenwood avoid Shadow Ridge after sunset, because on quiet nights, 2 voices can still be heard drifting through the mountains: a young woman calling for someone she loves, and a terrified man answering from somewhere deep within the darkness. And anyone foolish enough to follow those voices is never seen again. If you enjoyed this terrifying story, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more horror stories. And before you go, if you ever hear someone calling your name from the darkness, don't answer. Good night.